Now people can hear me say that I just had technical difficulties. Wow, guys, this is a great start. Welcome to the GM's Lost Whiskey, the podcast that creates a safe place for GMs and players alike to talk about everything tabletop RPG. I'm Lee Whiskey. Let's get started. So, tonight, first off, new time, same place, new time, same people. It's our wonderful, beautiful faces. Um, same content. Not that we've been really doing this long enough to have the same content, but you know. Well, tonight we wanted to start off our conversation by sharing some character ideas and kind of how we come up with our characters, which I think is also for the GMs out there a little insight into how we also create our NPCs, our villains, um, all of those wonderful things. Um, so Lost, tell me one character, just so everybody's aware. These aren't characters that we are playing in any campaigns. These are just ones that have been sitting in our heads. Um, the ones that I plan on sharing are ones that I've kind of had on the back burner for a while. That I'm like, when a campaign comes, I'm gonna do it. Yeah, I think we all know how that goes. Uh,
A lot of the ones that my party interact with frequently tend to have their own character sheet or um, a very in-depth description of how, like, what the, the character's hopes are, where they come from, things like that. Um, but yeah, to start us off, I get a lot of inspiration from books that I read,
mhm.
like most people. Um, there is a series of books that are written by the incredible, the amazing, the fantastic James Lovegrove. And
Okay.
basically, what he does is he kind of combines H.P. Lovecraft and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's works, and he kind of takes inspiration from both, and he uses the characters of Sherlock Holmes and Watson and like Cthulhu in the same book, and it's
Okay.
really, really cool. So, listening to this, this series of books, and I was like, I really want to create a character that is chaotic evil, but it's very hard to create a truly chaotic evil character.
Yeah.
Um, at least for me, because most of mine have to abide by like a certain code. So
Yeah.
those are like lawful evil, right? Um, but the idea is that in this world that this character lives in, there are what's called the outer gods. Um, and the god that I created for this character is Ganushekai. And basically, what this guy is, that particular god is a dark power that, when envisioned in my head, is very like black, tentacly. There's
Yeah.
no true form to its person.
Mhm.
Um, and it attains immortal status by absorbing the lives of the sacrifices that are given to it.
Okay.
So basically, this evil character that I've been thinking about, um, whose name in the like, so I envisioned like he lives in this city. He's a serial killer, um, and for lack of better verbiage, like newspaper people,
Mhm.
um, they titled him as Chaos because every time they find a new body, like they know it's a serial killer because he leaves a mark, but the body is killed in different ways, so it's a different MO every time, and the only reason they know it's him is because he leaves a calling card.
He's the Riddler.
Um, not like a card
No, I know,
card,
but
but like
okay, let me explain what I mean by that. So, the Riddler, in my opinion, is one of the greatest villains ever created. I don't like Batman, but the
okay,
Riddler,
okay, hang on.
he's a grown man in a rubber suit running around with a small boy. Yeah, you can't even argue it. Um, but the Riddler is
Focus.
literally, in my opinion, one of the greatest villains ever created. Because he is the perfect villain.
Say more.
But he is so proud that he leaves riddles behind. If it wasn't for the riddles, no one would ever know that he did it.
Mm.
And so the Riddler is this like, the epitome of evil in the fact that he's the perfect villain, but his flaw makes him.
His hubris.
Yeah, his flaw is what destroys him. Um, and I love that about him. I also just love the
Mm-hmm.
idea of leaving riddles behind to be like, are you smart enough to catch me?
So it's okay. I see where you're deriving the connection then,
Yeah,
because this person is unbelievably smart.
yeah,
Like he is he is masterfully smart. Um, and he's bored, and that's one of his main drives is that he's bored, and he ended up connecting with this god randomly in an encounter that he wasn't anticipating, and the god said, "Hey, do you want to live forever?" And he's like, interesting. He's like, if you sacrifice things to me, I will give you immortal life. And so, what's the thing that I thought about this character that I thought would be really cool is that the god and him are playing each other,
hmm
but he's also playing with his own victims and the people trying to catch him.
yeah.
And so it's just like you don't know as a player character, you don't know, is he going to double cross the god that he's making sacrifices to
Yeah.
or not? Like he's a
It's a,
human.
it's a very evil campaign. Like,
Yeah, it gets really effing dark. Like it gets really
oh
bad.
yeah, this campaign, the campaign I see him fitting into is a very serious evil campaign, which
Yep.
like I see it as like a very dark, very we're looking to just kill for fun. Which
Oh.
you know who I would run in that campaign because I think
Hmm.
that they would be literally probably the most terrifying duo ever.
Okay.
Per.
Interesting. Okay, say more. I'm actually
As,
curious
all
about this.
right, so
I'm curious about
for
this.
those of you that don't know, Per is a character that I'm currently playing.
Yes.
Who is this? I'd obviously have to change his backstory, but the same gist would fit. Per is this very manipulative, very charismatic character who is a changeling, but he's also a rogue. So all of a sudden, you put these two together. Like Per is a planner. Per has been planning and manipulating essentially a god, a vampire who's lived for thousands of years, hundreds of years, whichever one Strahd has done, without Strahd knowing. And you
Oh
know
my gosh.
the whole idea of these two like major manipulators
Well,
sitting down together and going, we
let's
could
have a
have some fun.
conversation.
Yeah.
Well, like, but here's the crazy thing. So, I actually like wrote down aspects of his character, like no joke,
Yeah.
okay? And um so he one of the things I wrote is that he is extremely charismatic, manipulative, and he has hypnotic properties, which means when he's talking to someone, he has the ability, like he has a rare ability to hypnotize them. So
I would
people
look
have to
in.
make a roll and be like, you don't know, like roll a intelligence saving throw or something like that, and people are like, just straight intelligence, and you're like, or
Wisdom,
perception,
wisdom.
wisdom. Like
So
it depends on the person though, because some
per
people might argue perception because if they
per
can
can actually
perceive
technically
that.
do that.
Interesting. Oh my
College
god.
of Whispers. You just speak in normal sentence. Like just in, you'd have to be talking to someone
Yep.
for like 10 minutes or something like that, and then without them knowing that you're doing it, they have to roll a wisdom save or be afraid of you.
Oh wow.
Um,
That is interesting. That is
and
really interesting.
yeah, as like I'm saying, like I feel like the two are very similar,
Right.
which doesn't speak a lot to Per because I've been trying to like convince people that Per is really not a bad guy.
Well, I
But
think this is going to be like a differentiating point though.
yeah.
Is this guy's a human, right?
Hmm.
Um, he only kills elves that are
Oh,
female.
see, Per fell in love with a female elf.
Yeah, this guy purposely kills female elves
Oh.
for two reasons. He sacrifices them to the god that is promising him immortality
Hmm.
because elves have extremely long lifespans,
Yeah.
and he feels that they take that for granted, and he doesn't think that that's necessary. So if the elves were eradicated, that's fine. So female elves create progeny, and he's like, no, no, you and your future children can die because you guys don't appreciate what you have. So I'm going to take that away from you, and I'm going to do
He's
this myself.
yeah. Honestly,
Yeah,
I could see Per.
dark,
I could see Per
dark.
going that direction if things had gone differently in his life.
Right, but they went differently in
But
his
they went
life.
differently. Like this is the really cool thing about character creation is probably before this conversation, you probably never put the charismatic manipulative part to Per.
Oh, I did. Oh,
Oh
I
no no
knew
no!
that he was.
I meant like connected the dots between the two characters.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
No, I did not.
and you and I created very similar characters, but are drastically different.
Yes,
This is the
and this
importance of
guy,
backstory.
right? And this guy, is like, and this is where so it's a little Cthulhuist,
Mm-hmm.
like Cthulhuistic, a little bit Sherlock
Kashyyyk.
Holmes-ish. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Words hard, but no, he grew up as a orphan,
Okay.
is what I'm thinking. Um, and he was probably abused a lot because of that, is what
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
Yeah. I can see it.
Um, and my guess is that the orphanage that he was a part of was run by elves.
So let me ask you this question
Sure.
because I feel like there's plenty of people out there that have this great idea for this evil character.
Right?
And they're like, I really want to run this evil character. Um, but all of their campaigns are normal campaigns. Normal campaigns in my head are non-evil campaigns. You're the hero. How how would you either adjust the background or play this character so that he fits in a normal party?
Oh, see, here's the thing. I never envisioned him as a character the players would play. I
As a
envisioned him
villain?
as a villain they have to
Mm.
defeat. If he was to be a character, though,
Because I almost want you to,
I would
yeah.
keep everything. I would keep everything except his reason for immortality.
Oh,
I would change that. Not because he's bored, not because of whatever the case may be, but that he had suffered such loss in his life. He wants to be able to give that gift to those whom he loves.
I like it.
So, and
Uh,
all of a sudden it changes, and you're
yeah,
like, well, does that obviously it doesn't justify his actions because he's still killing
Yeah,
women in
obviously. Yeah.
sadistic and twisted ways. But you're wondering, huh, like there's a girl that he cares for that's an orphan, and she got really sick because he thought that the place he left her in was safe, but it wasn't, and she got really sick and died.
It's I think that this is actually one of the biggest things. You really hit on it in that. Um, the best way to make a character who you have as a super evil character, fully chaotic evil, the best way to tie them back, basically give them the redemption arc, the possibility of the redemption arc,
Mm-hmm.
to make him so that he's not a complete asshole, so that he's not the character that everyone's like, why the hell is he in this party? Is
Mm-hmm.
give him ties.
Yep.
True chaotic evil has no ties. They
Yep.
don't care. They just want to kill and rampage and be evil.
They're they're psychotic.
Yeah.
Like
In my head, so everybody uses the Joker as the true form of chaotic evil. Um, Not my favorite comparison. Um, I think that the
interesting.
Joker's a little bit more neutral, um, because he he doesn't just go on rampages. Like he's very meticulous in what he does, very plotted out and very
Because he's smart.
yeah. Um, there's there's a method to the madness.
So, okay, I just want to say you don't like Batman, but you love the villains that
That's
Batman
because
has faced.
okay, let me just say this about Batman.
Okay?
Batman is the worst part of Batman.
He's
It's so
basically
true
the
though.
evil character himself. He's
Batman
the character
here's
that we're
here's the
talking
thing.
about.
The best part about the Batman movies, the Batman comics, anything Batman is not Batman. It's his villains. They've created I think that Batman's villains are some of the most ingenious and well-created villains in all of comic books.
But I think the difference is that the character that I'm creating, the character of her, are uniquely tied to the
Yeah,
character of someone like Batman is because he's evil. Like some of the stuff he does is
is wrong.
absolutely
Yeah.
wrong. And there's no two ways about it, but he has ties like Alfred, like
Yeah.
his
So
whatever person he's with, to bring him back
yeah.
to humanity, but he continually loses himself.
Yeah. But going back to my point, the Joker is not, in my opinion, the perfect chaotic evil. He is chaotic evil, but he's like, it's a spectrum.
So you're saying that like the Riddler would
There
be
is no
okay.
Carnage.
I
First,
don't know a lot about
okay.
Carnage.
So, if you've if you don't know a lot about Carnage, if you're not a Spider-Man nerd like me, um, one of my favorite comic series, is Maximum Carnage. So,
Okay.
for those of you who don't know who Carnage is in the Spider-Man universe, Carnage is a version of the black suit that Spider-Man wears. He's born from that black suit,
Mm-hmm.
um, but he finds his way onto a serial killer, and literally they just walk down the streets killing people.
I remember. Okay, nerd time. When I owned a PlayStation,
Mm-hmm. Did,
one,
yeah,
there were a couple Spider-Man games that I played on it, and one of them introduced Carnage.
I think there's a
And
Maximum Carnage game for the original PlayStation.
yeah,
It was so the new Carnage movie did actually a really good job. I was like I wanted that next step. He still felt kind of tame to me because
mm,
Carnage is I I just don't care. Like I'm gonna kill you because you're here. Like the Joker has this like kind of manipulation going. This
watch, I
again,
can make a pencil disappear.
yeah, like he's got this kind of logic behind what he's doing. Carnage is just doing it. There's no method to the madness. There's no plot. There's no plan. He's just killing because he can. So
Interesting.
that,
No,
sorry,
no,
that was
no.
a little
It's
tirade.
but no, but like it makes sense, but doesn't make sense in a certain sense.
It's
But what I'm
there. I like I said. I think that Joker and Carnage, they're both definitely chaotic evil. Um, it's just for because it's a spectrum. Like we always think of
hmm
the nine alignments as the boxes, the nine boxes,
hmm
but it's really more of a spectrum that characters will flow in between.
Yep.
I see Joker as having the possibility of it's. I don't actually think that he could ever jump to something else because of who he's been created to be, but like
Right.
in that spectrum, I don't see him as deep into chaotic evil as Carnage is.
I could see that. And I recall there was a comic that I was reading with him in it
Mm-hmm.
where he like just utterly destroyed this entire hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And as he's walking like down the street, he's like whistling to himself and he's kind of like doing his little frolic thing with like his full mask and whatever. And he
Yeah.
looks and he sees this guy like beating the crap out of this
Yeah.
child, and he kills the guy, and he makes this comment to this child. Doesn't kill the child,
Yeah.
and you're like, to be fair, what he does to Harley Quinn is kind of effed up,
Oh
but
yeah. No. No. Is but like there's I don't know in everything that Joker does, it's like he's like there's still like almost an inkling of good in
right,
him.
right. No,
There's
I
just
understand.
pure darkness in
In
Carnage.
Carnage, yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, I know that that was a huge long tirade for.
But to bring it back around though, like there's a reason why there are these connections being drawn between these evil characters and this character that I'm creating, this character that you've
Yeah,
already created,
and
and it
they have to be good connections. I will say that because like
right,
Carnage has people that he cares about. He teams up at one point, but the whole point of teaming up is like, oh, you're gonna come murder people too? All right, let's go murder some people. Like
right,
if you need someone in your story to make you better.
right,
Um,
to ground you,
yeah, yeah,
somebody who can pull you back.
yes. And I think just for any character, coming from a DM standpoint, if you create your character and they're on an island, like you've kind of disconnected them from everybody. I'm sorry, I hate it so much because it helps. I mean, for me as a GM, like I have the character in my campaign I struggle the most with is our wizard because he's just was like, all right, I've kind of like disconnected myself from everybody. I don't really care about anybody, but like I'm a good guy. And I'm like, cool, you're a good guy, but like I can't I don't have
Yeah.
things to pull you places. Like you
Yep.
don't care about anything other than knowledge, and so like I have to use knowledge to pull you places. So finally I was like, in your backstory, I need at least one person that you care about. So that
hmm
there's a reason for you caring if a place is blown up, if a
Yep.
city is being controlled. Um, so if you're creating characters with no connections to other, like, make them up. I don't care. I, I made Purr's best friend right now is a dragon. Yeah,
I'm sorry. It's just the way you say it. It's just
this,
really funny.
I would allow the shit out of that. If a player came to me and was like, David, like, I'm kind of got this evil character, it's like, but like the only real connection that he's got is like to this
Dragon.
dragon. I'm like, well, is it a metallic dragon or is it a chromatic dragon? Well, it's a metallic dragon. Okay, cool. Like your character has some pull to the light.
There you go.
Whatever. Um, yeah.
But
So
yeah. So, anyways, like that was basically one of my ideas that I've had like kind of rolling around in my head and debating on if I should bring him to one of my, well, I guess my only campaign that I'm working on as a GM.
Yeah.
But we'll see. There's a few overarching, like I already have a lot of the main story figured out, like
Yeah.
not like in detail, but like the basic points of okay, they need to do A, B, C, D, and E, and then they're gonna understand that this is what this thing is going for, kind of a
Yeah.
thing.
And so here's a thought for you. You guys been playing for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much thought you've put into campaign 2, but in my head, he almost sounds like I don't like. Yeah, he's kind of a low-level villain for a party.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
But
if
he could be easily tied to a greater evil,
exactly,
which is the outer god that he's working with.
yeah, and if you do that, make the outer god kind of the big bad of the campaign or the big
Mm-hmm.
bad of an arc. Um, you can very easily pull him
Yeah,
in that place. I do have one last question for you before we jump
sure.
on to another character. Because it kind of flows into the first character that I'm going to talk about. So you you chose to come up with a male character as a female player.
Yeah,
What kind of prompted that? Like, what made you decide to build him as a male as opposed to playing him as a female?
honestly, psychology.
That's fair. Yeah.
So, um, okay, so here are some facts whose statistics are probably completely wrong, but
Hmm.
I know that there are far more male serial killers than female serial killers known.
Yeah.
Okay, like recorded in history, kind of thing,
Hmm.
right? In America, um, and oftentimes women do not have the same penchant for violence
Hmm.
as men do. Um, and women have the strength of being able to recognize their emotions and work with them more readily than men.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, um, like he is a kind of character that doesn't want to deal with his own shit.
Yeah.
And
I
I
don't know
just think
anything
that,
about that.
I just think like as
Yeah.
if he was a woman, he would more easily have ties that ground him and
Hmm.
not have him be as evil of a character because
So
and
what
this
if
could just oh go ahead.
what if a change that you make to make him fit into a campaign better is by changing his gender?
Potentially.
Uh,
I know gender is a very hot topic in terms of how people view gender. Um,
just so everybody knows, whenever we speak about gender, we are talking about the physical, chemical, and natural uh, emotions strength being of the genders, because the two genders do
right,
have different chemical makeup in their brain, different um, biologies. So whenever we're talking about the genders, we're talking about it in the strict sense of what they are capable in that way.
right. Um, Mostly because I don't have the ability because I feel like because it can be such a spectrum. It's so complicated to even try to wrap my. It's too complicated to
Yeah.
try to wrap my mind around. I just can't do it. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why. Also, um, I tend to make male characters more easily than female characters.
Hmm.
I can make male characters far easier than I can make female characters, which is
Interesting.
strange
Yeah.
to me. But
So the reason why I asked is because the first character that I wanted to share is actually a female. Um,
okay,
this is This was a character that. So there's several ways to there are several starting points from building characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yours was kind of the backstory that you had created. Oh, we gotta ask. Um, do you have a race or do you have a race? Do you have a class lined up, multi-class that you're kind of thinking of for your serial killer?
I'll think about it. I was thinking like a bardic rogue, but
That's what Purr is, everybody. Is a bardic
oh,
rogue.
actually,
Yeah.
oh my god. Okay, no, I'm gonna
Here's
change it. Fuck.
here's so
Excuse me.
if you
No.
honestly here's the change. So this is the first thought that came to my head. You run College of Whispers, Bard, which is more or less the assassin bard road,
Mm-hmm.
and you make him an assassin. It's a little straightforward, a little bit, it might be too easy, too straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
It would make him different than Purr. Purr is a swashbuckler, not an assassin. A little bit more stand in front of you. Um,
Gotcha.
but that is that is also a difference in their personalities, I feel. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, think about it. I think I think there's some fun combinations you could come up with. He could be a paladin, a rogue paladin,
He could.
or
Or
a rogue
Forsaken.
warlock,
Isn't there like a broken treaty warlock thing?
oathbreaker
Yeah,
paladin.
Oathbreaker. Or Oathbreaker Paladin. There we go. Yeah, words are hard.
I would actually look more into the evil domains of paladin, because those do
Yeah,
exist.
they do.
I am
But
I
I don't think he would. I don't think he would start out as a paladin though. I
No, I
think
think
he
he would
would,
be rogue.
and or assassin type
Yeah.
um until he met Goneshikai, and then
Um,
Ganesh.
so yeah,
Ganesh.
that's
Yeah.
I just feel like that's a important thing when it
Yep.
comes to character creation. Like, what
But
are they?
I know I drew a lot of my inspiration from books that I've read. So your character, where are you drawing inspiration for her from?
Um,
And also, is it why I'm gonna respond with the same question. Why a female character? Is it easier for you to make female characters? I'm just curious because
no,
I just don't know.
it's actually really interesting. My third so my campaign characters right now that I've played in the past year and a half, almost 2 years, have been a woman and a changeling. And like this is like it's I don't know. For me, it's more about the feel of the character. Um,
Okay.
I actually really sat down with Pyre, is her name, um, and was like, why do I keep having this feeling that she's a girl? Like I keep referring to her as a she in my head as I was
Mhm.
building her, like creating a little bit of her background.
Mhm.
Um, and I was just like, because it feels right. Like that was the extent
Yeah.
of it. It's like every
No,
time I thought of it, it was just it's a
I
she.
get it. I get it. Yep.
Um, so I actually created Pyre because I really want to play this subclass. um,
And the truth comes out.
yeah, I mean, we all have that one subclass that we're like, I just want to play it once. And just so everybody's aware, I wanted to play this subclass before it appeared on Critical Role. She's
Okay.
a Wildfire Druid.
Okay.
Thus the name Pyre.
She.
But I picture her as like 13, like
There are so many
12,
questions going
13.
through my head.
And she kind of walks around like this and is just like, I just want to set the world on fire.
So like Annie from League of Legends, but
Is you kind of
cooler.
if you want to compare League of Legends characters, I would say a mix between Annie and Zoe.
Yeah, I could see
Very
that.
very upbeat.
Like bubbly.
Yeah, very bubbly, very like um just not necessarily charismatic. Like I almost picture her as not charismatic, but talkative.
Okay.
Which is a very counterintuitive thing for a lot of people. Charisma does not mean that you're the one talking all the time. Charisma means that
Hmm.
you're the one that is good at it. Um, I don't see her as good at it. But she's
She's
like this super bubbly, just like, yeah, guys, everything's great. Um, but one of the lines that I literally had pop into my head with her as I was creating her playlist, it's only got 3 songs, but um, one of the song, I just had this line pop into my head from the Joker, um, which was actually from Batman. I think it was Alfred that said it. Um, some people just want to watch the world burn.
hmm
Um, and
So
the line, but for her, the line doesn't stop there. So the line is, uh, some people just want to watch the world burn, but the bad guys just want to end it there.
okay.
And because wildfire druids are all about like you burn down so life can come back.
That was exactly where I was. Yep.
And so like she is this like, very bubbly, very like enthusiastic little girl who's obviously very good at what she does, who's just like I'm kind like I just want to burn shit down, but not because I just want to watch things burn, but because I want to see what comes out of it. Like I want to see the life come out of it.
I want to see the world anew.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
that's pretty much the extent of it. I think I have one other song in the playlist. I can't even remember what I put it in there for. Um,
Interesting. So you you said you thought of this character before Critical Role,
mhm.
and you were inspired for this character from.
From the class. Like I
Okay.
literally took the class and I was like, okay, wildfire druid. Like how would I build a wildfire druid? Um,
Interesting.
I I didn't want it to be this. Um, like I think in my head the kind of the typical way in my head for me to build a wildfire druid would be this, um, this guy who walks through very Caleb. Just he's kind of glum. Uh, but he walks through the world and just sets things on fire. But after playing Purr for so long, like Purr's a very dark character, and I wanted something light. Especially because Pyre for a long time was going to be a one-shot character that kind of just kept jumping between one-shots but never really stuck to one.
Hmm.
Um, she's my lineup for a campaign that may never happen. Um,
Is
yeah,
she chaotic good then, or what is her
yeah,
alignment?
I'd say chaotic good.
Okay.
Um, you know, yeah, she wants what's good for the world. She's trying to do what's right, but her idea of doing what's right for the world is, well, things need to die first. Um, yeah.
It's really interesting to me that you chose her to be a female because when you're talking about like burning away the past and
Hmm.
seeing the world anew kind of a thing. Um, I think that's when I think of nature and when I think of like Mother Nature and how that works.
Hmm.
Um, it's like the earth is being reborn, and I think that that ties into her femininity really well, as someone who wants to see the potential, like who wants to see the potential that the world has to offer.
Yeah.
I
And
just think that that's really kind of a beautiful thing.
yeah. And I mean, I picture her as like very naive, very like
I mean, she's
she's
13 or
she's
12
young.
or
Yeah, like
yeah.
it's her character arc isn't her, becoming happy because she's genuinely happy. Her character arc isn't, you know, this is like in my I guess this is something that I think of whenever creating characters like what
Hmm.
is like I'm creating a character at the start of a campaign. What development can they have over the course of the campaign so that they're not the same character? Like it's not necessarily
Hmm.
what's going to happen. And I'm not trying to force it. Um, but
But the potential
what's
of
the
change.
potential? Yeah.
Yeah.
And for her, it's maturing, like learning that sometimes you shouldn't burn things to the ground. Sometimes life is perfectly okay where it is. Um,
Hmm.
I did picture her as um, though as a character that is tied to another character in the campaign. I don't know
Okay.
who it would be, but I don't see her as traveling alone. Like she's a 13-year-old kid. It's like someone's gonna like the paladin is gonna stop and go, "Hey kid, you shouldn't be walking by yourself." Like
I feel like she should have some kind of like half giant, half orc barbarian that like came from like the fighting pits and like is super protective of her. Like
it's exact. Actually, that's almost exactly what I was picturing for it.
I was like, this would be perfect. Like
Um,
perfect.
and that actually came from I went and I looked it up. The last song in the playlist, the third song on the playlist, "Stand by You" by Rachel Platten. Um,
Oh yeah.
and the album name is Wildfire.
Hmm.
The other two songs that I have are "Burn It All Down" and "Be Kind to Yourself." Because I feel like she's the member of the party, very gesture-esque. She's a member of the party going, "Don't be so hard on yourself. Everything's gonna be okay."
Right. Because she, yeah, yeah,
Um, and I feel like sometimes parties need that character.
yeah. I think players that you have several kinds of players. The ones that I've encountered are either um too dark,
Hmm.
like they get so invested in the darkness of their character that they fail to see the lightness in their character.
Most of my campaign.
Um, or they're too light in that everything is
Doom and gloom around them.
no, like everything for them is like the wind, like it's passable, it's fleeting, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Everything's going to be like, I'm going to go do this random thing and do this other random thing. And there's nothing wrong with having those kinds of characters, but I think when people see consequences of their actions as a player character
Hmm.
and how some of them are not always good,
Yeah.
um they need to have a character like Pyre that's just like,
Everything's gonna be
don't
fine.
don't be so hard on
Yeah.
yourself.
Like
Like
Pyre. I mean, the thing with Pyre is that she literally burns shit down for fun. Like if somebody die, like if there are bad
she's an arsonist,
consequences,
it's
yeah.
fine.
If
Like
if there are bad results, like bad results can lead to good things. Like that's kind of the whole mentality of her. Um, so this, like, uh, just the pure optimism of a child.
Yeah.
is very much kind of what embodies her for me. Um, yeah, like she's just this bundle of fire. Like, yeah, she's a
So
wildfire.
so beyond another person in the group that grounds her, is there anything else that may cause her pause, or anything else that may um, lead to new growths for her?
So I haven't actually like truly hashed her out yet.
Right, but that I mean,
But actually, one thing that I think would be very interesting for her, as you were saying it, and it's like something that would give her pause.
mhm.
Um, well, she's a druid, so she can wild shape. She'll get pause. Um, but I actually was the first thing that popped into my mind is blood. She doesn't cut things; she burns them.
Oh,
Like, she
she
might get squeamish or is afraid of blood.
she may be afraid of water then too.
Yeah. Well, she would have to drink water, but
True.
like
Well, no, but
swimming
like
wise, and yeah, like
if
large
she's
pools.
swimming, saw an ocean, saw like you know a glacier, she'd be like,
Yeah.
you know,
But there's this. Yeah. Anyways,
yeah. No, I think that's really cool.
she's a
Because
very
people,
she's a very fun character, and that's what I was looking for in her creation.
yeah, I know. It's interesting that you say that because I have. Okay, so I spoke with a couple friends of mine,
Hmm.
um, and one of them wanted to be a D&D DM,
Okay.
GM. However, they wanted to play D&D as a GM
Yep.
or DM or however that works. But um, they started like posing scenarios to me. Like, what would you do if this happened or this happened or this happened?
Funny.
And one
Those
of
have
the
all
questions,
actually happened to me.
right? Well, one of the questions she posed to me, and I thought this was really interesting, was um, keeping players involved over long periods of time
Hmm.
between sessions. And I actually had asked all of my players recently, like, hey, if you know any ideas on how you want to stay in the loop, because we meet on a monthly basis, like, let me know and we'll figure something out. Or I will have a one-on-one session with you, or a two-on-one session, or whatever
Yeah.
the case may be.
Yeah.
Um, and it was really interesting to me because she's the group that she's a part of, that she wants to join, that she wants to
Hmm.
start. Um, they're very there's like two serious like hardcore D&D players.
Okay.
Like they have accents, they like have their mug of ale, they like sit down and they're in it. Like they are in the mode,
Yeah.
okay? Um and the other two people are wispy, I guess would be a term to just use to describe them. Like they're very like frou frou,
Yeah.
like take
Whatever
posies
happens.
and
Yeah.
throw them down the way, and like let's go talk to this random person. Why? Because why not? And like
Because we can. It's D
right,
and D. We can do whatever we want.
right. And she was talking with me. She was like, how would I be able to best unite these two groups of people? Because oftentimes they can butt heads
Hmm.
on how the game should be played. And I was like,
People arguing about how to
interesting.
play D&D?
People arguing about how to play D&D?
That's not on
What?
every D&D form ever.
Right.
I don't go
Um
read people's house rules and go, why would you do that?
there's a reason. There's a reason.
I'm sure there are reasons, and they're probably
You
all
know?
dumb. No, I'm kidding. Your home rules are your home rules, and I know that for a fact you have good reason for using them. It's because they make your games better. I hope.
I hope. Like, yes. Anyways, but yeah. So, I had to think about it. It really did give me pause
Yeah.
because I know in my own campaign, some of that has happened. Not like I don't think the personalities are as extreme.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but how the game should be played has been something that's been discussed. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, this is really interesting that this person is bringing this up to me and talking to me about this. And I was like, well, I did tell her, I was like, one of the biggest things you could probably do is like have everybody like send everybody a form, like a sheet of
Mm-hmm.
like what are your expectations,
Yeah.
and like and they have like online, you Google it and you can find like 30
It's
questions
literally the
every GM should ask their people.
I think it's called the same page tool.
Yeah, there's the
Uh,
same page tool.
yeah.
And it helps everybody understand like at a base level what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
um However, that doesn't necessarily make the gameplay that
Yeah.
much easier when you have people whose personalities clash so much. So I kind of like, I wanted to see what your response to that would be, because I was kind of like not taken aback in a bad way, but kind of like, huh,
Kind of
like,
impressed by it. It was a very good question.
right, like,
Um, I think I think the first thing that pops into my head is that conflict isn't necessarily a bad thing. Conflict within a party is honestly good and healthy, not only for the characters, but for the players. Because
okay,
you're like it drives me crazy when people are like, "Oh, we've been playing for 6 months, but actually it's been 2 weeks in game, but we're best friends." No, Karen. No, you're not. Like, yes, there will be characters that immediately hit it off, and
mm-hmm.
that's awesome. Um, but not everyone in the party is going to like each other, no matter how long you've been playing outside a game.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I firmly believe that a piece of every player's mentality should be to keep the party together. If your character decides they need to leave, that's a whole different story.
Right,
But starting infighting just to pick fights, not okay.
right,
Um, there's a in one of the campaigns I played in, um, one of the characters, after we've known each other for 2-3 days in game, we've been playing for
mm-hmm.
2-3 months.
Okay,
Um, comes up, he's a big brawny man, comes up to my female wizard, who with like an 8 strength, and corners her and starts yelling at her. And
and
the
cast hold
female in the
person.
stream understands why I reached out and I cursed him. I can't remember the name of the actual spell
Hold
right.
person? No, not hold
No,
person.
the actual bestow curse, and then I nuked his ass.
He was kind of asking for it.
Literally knocked him unconscious.
Okay.
Not, I wasn't meaning to. I rolled really well for damage, but like I
I was gonna
basically
say
was
like,
like
ooh,
I was trying to be like, my character is afraid.
yeah.
I'm reaching out and casting a spell on you, and he's like, I let you touch me. I'm like, fuck you. I'm putting you down. Like, I mean, I'm rolling 3d8 against a guy who's a level 2 or 3. Um, I still have to roll really well in order to knock him unconscious, and I did. But like, you know,
I'm sure he was pleased by that.
yeah, like we've known each other for 2 days. I don't care whether I'm playing a male or a female in that situation. The fact I was playing a female made it worse in my head. Um,
With a strength of 8.
with a strength of 8, like yes, I'm a wizard.
Right.
I'm powerful in that way, but
Right.
um, you know, we haven't known each other that long.
Mm-hmm.
um, we need to be conscious of that, and we also need to like the the thing that builds trust amongst parties um, is dialogue, and a lot of parties ignore it.
Yeah.
Um, it's one of the things that uh, people watch Critical Role and they go, their party is so close, they all know so much about each other. They, you know,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's because Liam O'Brien literally cannot go 5 minutes without having a side conversation. And I love him for it.
It's so true, though.
Yeah, for those of you who
It's a
watch Critical Role, 90% of character building moments, um, the really intense dialogues between characters, Liam's
Mm-hmm.
characters are a part of that. So if your party doesn't have someone that does that, you need someone that does that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm currently pressuring my paladin into doing that because healers are not just for the body.
They are for the mind.
Yeah. But to answer to go wrapping back around to your question,
Mm-hmm.
um, so I would say one, it's not a bad thing. If it becomes a bad thing, there is obvious discussion that needs to be had that just hasn't been had. Um, I think sitting down at the table the first session, definitely do the same page tool. Just so you as a DM have an idea of what people want.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but sit down and say, "Hey guys, let's play,"
Yeah.
and just see how the dynamic works.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, if nothing else, well, I hope if nothing else, your veteran players are going to try and connect with the new players. And the new players who seem to be very, lighthearted and kind of floofy,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to want to connect to the other characters.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's actually a good situation to be in. Having if you swap that, if you have hard new players and floofy veterans, oh god, that's where the nightmare begins.
That's true, actually. That's very true.
Yeah, because the floofy players are gonna try, it's a part of being floofy. You want to connect to people.
Yep.
Um, so that's my thoughts on that situation. Um,
And I appreciate it because I know she'll likely be looking at this. So I'm hoping that she'll be able to take hope and inspiration from it. But this is some of the kind of questions that we like to talk about too. Um,
Absolutely. And lost, it is sad, but we are running out of time.
oh my God, we are. Wow. Holy, really?
Yeah.
Wow,
Um,
that was fast. I feel like it was fast.
it felt fast. I still had a whole nother character lined up to talk about. Um,
Do that next time.
yeah, X. I'm sure I'll tell you off stream about X. X is
Probably.
he's the one that I've really put more work into. Um, but I'll save X for another time.
Okay.
Anyways, guys, thanks for joining us on this episode of the GM's Lost Whiskey. If you're watching us live on Twitch, make sure you hit that follow button. If you feel so inclined, we would love it if you would hit the subscribe button. Um, and in doing so, you'll get notifications. I think you might have to hit a bell notification. Maybe that's YouTube. Um, But that way, you know when we go live, especially because now we're at a new time.
We're at
Um,
a new time.
we will be going live 8 o'clock on Tuesdays from here on out, just so everybody knows. And if you're watching us on YouTube, if you're watching the VOD over there, make sure that you leave a like, hit the subscribe button. It helps us out a ton.
Yeah. And I know if you guys want us to review any builds that you guys may have or ideas for characters, or you're like, hey, I have this question about turning this evil character good or good character evil, like, definitely leave us a comment or shoot us an email. You can send it to our email at gmslastwhiskey@gmail.com.
Yep.
And then any further questions or comments can be put on the VOD. Also, we have a Patreon. Dun, ta-da! So if you'd like, you could always support us at our Patreon at patreon.com/GMslostwhiskey.
It's
So,
down. It's right there.
yeah,
Yeah,
wherever
it's
thing
this
is.
way for you, but yeah.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's this way.
Haha!
Yeah, haha.
Yeah!
Yeah, and if you guys want to, this episode is probably a good glimpse for you guys as what into what our character reviews would kind of look like. Because we more or less reviewed our own characters in this session. Um, so, anyways, y'all, I'm Whiskey.
And I'm lost.
Have a drink for me, y'all.
Don't stop rolling. Peace.
Peace.